get to go back as the commander of Apollo 19 with Jerry Carr and Bill Poe. And then NASA, like 4 or 5 months in training of 16, canceled 18 and 19. So I went off to the program office for development of shuttle for the next 4 years, in fact. While there, I had a little more free time, so I was doing some sport flying in these Japanese look-alike airplanes. They had been built by 20th Century Fox for the movie Toro, Toro, Toro. How many here have seen that World War II movie? And they used them in that filming, and we picked them up for an operation. We did air shows, and we were part of the opening act, which was simulating an attack on Pearl Harbor. And I flew this Japanese dive bomber. That's a look-alike Zero on the other side, and one way over there with the greenish look, that's an added fuselage section, but to look like a Kate torpedo bomber. One day I was flying at a short distance from Angleton, Texas, where the crop duster field, to get it on the wash rack at Galveston for an air show coming up at Dallas-Fort Worth. And I had an engine failure at 300 foot. Put it into a field. The landing gear was fixed. I couldn't raise the landing gear, and further to preserve the pants, we had metal plates around the oleos, so the oleos couldn't stroke. So I had no cushioning from the oleos. You only get the tires. And then ended up cartwheeling, going over, ended up upside down backwards, and it took me a little while to get out. So I got burns over 65%. I'm not showing you this to be gruesome, but I went in the hospital at Galveston, the University of Texas Hospital, and was in the hospital for 3 months. The important point of this is, here was a case where it was life-threatening for a little while, on its critical stage, but I developed a goal. The goal was to get back to flying. And I had an ad hoc medical staff. The main doctors and handlers and nurses were University of Texas, but the people to do the adult ward, the burn ward, were shrine doctors that handled the children's burn shrine institute next door. So I met with the doctors and discussed what we'd have to do. And one thing we altered in the normal protocol was when you get to the grafting point, and I had grafts all the way around the legs, you don't want pressure on the grafts for 5 days while they set. And they normally would have put a pin through my ankles to hoist my legs up while the grafting took place, healing. And we talked about it. We said, well, that causes pressure. Maybe I'll have pressure differential problems when I fly, going up and down. So we had, my wife got sandals and got it to the suit techs, and they put Velcro on the sandals and built a board to go at the end of the bed with matching Velcro. So that's the way I clamped my feet and avoided the pins. That was 1973. In 1976, still in the program office for 4 years with shuttle development, I got named to be the commander of Crew 1 to fly the very first Space Shuttle Enterprise. We had only 2 crews flew Enterprise, myself and Gordon Fullerton with Crew 1, Joe Engel and Dick Truly with Crew 2. And we flew alternately flights. We had 8 flights in the program, and I flew 5 of the 8 test flights we flew. This is the last flight on the runway at Edwards. All the rest of them were flown on the big dry lake at Edwards, which a lot of shuttles from orbit ended up landing there. Now this is the day we were going to first release it. We had flown 3 flights to do some system tests on top of the 747, but we also perfected the profile that Fitz Fulton would fly. He was the commander of the 747. Mercury was his co-pilot, Vic Harton and Skip Guidry were the 2 flight engineers that were with him, so 4 people in the 747. And they perfected a profile that would assure we'd get safe separation when we cut loose, so we wouldn't drift back and hit the tail on the 747. And to perfect that maneuver, as well as I said, we did other system tests. Kind of strange when you're up on top there, you're way up there, and on an orbiter you can look out every window or lean over as far as you want. You can't see the 747. It's kind of like magic. It just backs along. You got no engines, you're a glider, and takes off. In fact, sitting up that high, I worried Fitz had taken off too early and didn't see we're going fast enough because we're way up there. Yeah, we had to learn some, what is it, rappelling? That was our escape route out of the top there. We'd have to rappel down the side of the vehicles if we had to get out of them on the ground. But anyway, we had a nice entourage of chase airplanes, T-38s, and this is getting ready to set point. It's a slow, shallow pushover. You get to a speed that was right, fits and pole, launch ready, and I push one button on my left, and we separated. That's what you're seeing here. And I had about 2 degrees a second pitch up selected, so we went up and away pretty fast. From there we did a couple of sets of maneuvers, did a practice landing at about 20,000 feet. The 747 can get up to about 30,000 feet before it started its pushover. We had nice contrails coming off the vortexes off the wingtips. Kind of nice that day at Edwards, with a little moisture up that altitude in the high desert. The chase airplane here has given us airspeed and altitude readings, because the first time you get to see your real readings are after you separate. Because on top of the 747, you're getting dirty air over the nose of the aircraft. It's distorting your readings. And so we're kind of calibrating the instrument on the way down. But we flew a simple box pattern at Edwards. Came off, headed northbound on a base leg, downwind rather, than a short base leg, and then a turn on final to 18, runway 18 south at Edwards, which is 8 miles long on that dry lake bed, so it's hard to miss. And this shows the very first touchdown of an orbital. It flew very nice. The handling qualities I judge better than anything we've seen in simulations or in our shuttle train aircraft, which is a Gulfstream 2 that has been modified so through a computer it flew characteristically like a shuttle. Even it could use reverse thrust all the way to give us the same dive angle for landing. But the real machine flew better. And this shows Gordo and I coming off that day. That was a big day for me. I have to tell a story. I really worried more that day about how things would go more than I had on Apollo 13. For the reason, programmatic reason, not safety. Gordo and I were sitting in ejection seats, so we had a good plan B if we needed it. I was worried more about people in the 747. If we had gone out of control or something and hit the 747, the 4 people in the 747 would not have had a way to get out. So if you're worried about fiscal safety, it was more that concern. But the concern I had was the program, because we did not have a second orbiter backing up Enterprise, second Enterprise. We had taken it out of the program for cost to try to preserve schedule, so we deleted it out of the program. And we had changed presidents. The program had been started under President Nixon, and Jimmy Carter had come in that January of this year. And he had canceled the B-1 bomber program pretty quickly after he got in, so we, kind of back of our minds, we worried if we crashed this shuttle. On top of that, NASA had just announced, not too far before we flew this flight, a slip in the orbital flight by a couple of years with the tile problem we had. So I worried if I crashed Enterprise, that may be the end of the shuttle program right there. So anyway, it was reflected somewhat by the troops, the ground crew, when Gordo and I climbed aboard that morning. On the side of the ladder we had to climb up to get to our seats was 2 Polaroid pictures. And they were of these astronaut-looking characters in blue flight suit, just like we're wearing. They had a helmet on with the visor down and the oxygen mask dangling, so you couldn't really tell who the people were. They're sitting on this huge floor sweeper, like sweeps Chicago streets or something, huge stuff. And the person sitting up there, and the saying there beside that picture says, "If you screw this up, this is your next job." So the workers were also worried a little bit about how this flight would go. But at any rate, it was a successful test program. That flight, we cut it loose, was within 2 weeks of a schedule we set 2 years before, and we finished the program about 4 months early. So for that sophisticated machine, it was a great, successful test program. I was scheduled to fly the third orbital mission, and I would have stayed to fly it had we kept what we were going to rescue Skylab. I don't know if anybody here remembers Skylab. It was falling in, and we were going to fly it with a little kick stage that we got pretty well built in the payload bay, and Jack Lausma was going to fly with me, and he was going to go over and dock this thing in the ground. Would point Skylab in the right direction and either boost it higher or deorbit it more properly than it ended up, because it ended up falling in early, parts going into Australia, in fact. And so that mission went away because shuttle schedule slipped to the right. And the mission that then we went into planning was pretty benign from my standpoint, to just sit on orbit and look at the view a lot. So I decided to go take an opportunity ahead with Grumman Corporation. And the next 17 years with Grumman and Northrop Grumman. So that's my career in general. That 42 years in business one way or another. And I have to say, looking back, I'm very blessed to have been around, in the case of Apollo, at the right time. And had a good flight testing career. It was kind of the end of the golden age of flight test at Edwards. So I was very, very fortunate and blessed to have had the opportunities I've had through my life. I understand that I don't know time. I thought we'd now open it up for questions. I don't know if we got a mic.
We've got one, sir, but first let me just say thank you for your presentation. Fred's agreed to stick around another 15 minutes or so for any questions you might have. I have a microphone. There's a gentleman in the back with the microphone. So